We are covering two of the most critical and frequently confused airspace types for the FAA Part 107 exam, Class E and Class G. Understanding the boundaries and rules for these two is essential, as most of your commercial drone flights will take place within them. The exam will test your ability to look at a sectional chart and determine exactly what kind of airspace you're in and what rules apply. Let's start with Class E or Class Echo airspace. Think of this as the catch-all controlled airspace. The key for your exam is knowing where it begins. In many areas, Class E starts at 1,200 feet above ground level, or AGL. This is often shown by a faded, thick blue line on a sectional chart. Since you're flying under 400 feet, you're well below this, operating in Class G. In other areas, typically around airports, the floor of Class E drops to 700 feet AGL. This is depicted by a fuzzy, shaded magenta ring, sometimes called a vignette. If you're flying at 350 feet inside this magenta shading, you are still in Class G airspace below the Class E floor, and no airspace authorization is needed. A major exam trap is confusing that fuzzy magenta shading with a dashed magenta line. A dashed magenta line indicates that Class E airspace starts at the surface. If you plan to fly inside a dashed magenta line, you are operating in controlled airspace from the moment you take off, and you absolutely must have prior authorization, typically through the Low Altitude Authorization and Notification Capability, or LAANC system. The exam loves to present scenarios where you must distinguish between these two magenta symbols. Mistaking one for the other is a guaranteed wrong answer. Now let's talk about Class G, or Class Gulf. This is uncontrolled airspace. On a sectional chart, Class G isn't depicted with lines. It's identified by the absence of other airspace markings. It exists wherever Class A, B, C, D, or E doesn't. For nearly all Part 107 operations, Class G extends from the surface up to the floor of the overlying Class E airspace, which could be 700 or 1,200 feet AGL. Most of your flights will be in Class G, and the best part is you do not need any ATC authorization to fly here. However, another common exam pitfall is assuming uncontrolled means no rules apply. Even in Class G, you, the remote pilot in command, are responsible for safety. Part 107 requires you to maintain specific weather minimums. You must have at least 3 statute miles of visibility and maintain a distance of 500 feet below clouds and 2,000 feet horizontally from them. The exam might give you a weather report and ask if a flight in Class G is permissible. Here's a simple mnemonic to keep the key Class E symbols straight. Fuzzy magenta, fly aplenty. Dashed magenta, authorization sent ya. This helps you remember that the fuzzy shading means you're likely in Class G underneath and good to go, while the hard dashed line means you must get LAANC authorization. For a typical exam question, you'll see a chart with an airport inside a faded magenta ring. It will ask if you need authorization to fly at 300 feet AGL just outside the runway. The correct answer is no, because you are operating in Class G airspace, as the Class E controlled airspace doesn't begin until 700 feet AGL. For free practice questions, AI-powered explanations, and more exam prep tools, visit openexamprep.com. That's openexamprep, all one word, .com.